As an American, I eat apple pie, play baseball under its blue skies. As an American, I travel this land and follow her roads wherever I can. From sea to shining sea, I've seen a lot, and none of it will be forgot. And when my country called, I gave my all as an American. I was born into freedom in a wonderful land of mountains and plains, rivers and lakes. Forever American is what I am. A past as rich as any can be. My father's worked hard to give this to me. I love this place I come from. To live another way I cannot foresee. As an American, I eat apple pie, play baseball under its blue skies. As an American, I travel this land and follow her roads wherever I can. From sea to shining sea, I've seen a lot, and none of it will be forgot. And when my country called, I gave my all as an American. As an American, I've been to the peaks of majestic mountains where the air is sweet. I've watched the eagle as it soars in beautiful skies that just can't be ignored. And by this country I'll always stand, for freedom and liberty for every man. When times are hard and things get rough, America always stands ready and rough. As an American, I eat apple pie, play baseball under its blue skies. As an American, I travel this land and follow her roads wherever I can. From sea to shining sea, I've seen a lot, and none of it will be forgot. And when my country called, I gave my all as an American. And when my country called, I gave my all as an American. Forever American is what I am.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Real News Live. How you guys doing tonight? Hopefully everyone can hear me all right and see me all right. But hi BK, hi Richard, hi Tia, hi Pam, hi Richard, so that, hi Nana. How you guys all doing tonight? And hi everyone else that's on chat. Karen, hello. You guys are looking for notifications and you're not getting them? If you message my personal page, of course I will add you onto the notification list. That'll help you quite a bit to be able to get notifications when we go live right away. I send those out. I send a message out, a group message that we are live. Looking at what's happening in America, it is truly sad. I mean, overall, America is heading towards collapse. Even history shows it happening. How America has slid into the current age of discord. Why has our trust in the institution collapsed? Why have our democratic norms become unraveled? All human society, of course, experiences waves of political crisis such as the one we face today. Over hundreds of societies over the last 10,000 years try to find clues of what caused this. I mean, there's a lot of variables, including population numbers, as well as well-being and forms of governance. You watch what happens when we have bad leaders, which bad rulers throughout history are frequently overthrown. And we find that precise mix of events today, which leads to the crisis of where we are. Two drivers of an unstable, large, looming collapse. First is, the economy. Unfortunately, broad swaths of the population has declined. Secondly, significantly, is elite overproduction. Society produces too many super rich, ultra educated people and not enough elite positions to satisfy their ambitions. Which we're seeing a lot of that today. We truly are. We're seeing a lot of people out there that have all this information, all this power. And the problem is having so many well-educated people leads to people having huge amounts of debt. Of course, that debt leads to huge amounts of people having to pay that debt. So they have to get jobs that'll pay it. The problem is even minimum wage jobs are requiring ridiculous degrees and certifications. And unfortunately, that falls upon all American citizens and hits them hard. That's why the U.S. could both be hiring and unemployment numbers can be going up. Supposedly robust job numbers in May, adding over 339,000 jobs, well above the expectation, and evidence of enduring strength in the economy that the Federal Reserve is desperately trying to cool. Of course, the report from Friday, the government reflects on the job market's resilience. That's more a year ago. Aggressive interest rates increased by the Fed. Of course, the Feds are going to have to raise rates again. Of course, causing national debt to have to be paid back even more interest. That's not the only thing that rose. One of the notable things that rose was unemployment rose to 3.7% from 3.4%. Unemployment rates are going up because jobs are not hiring people unless they have certain educations. For one thing, the average work week has declined to 34.3 hours. Seemingly small drop, but the economists are equivalent to cutting several 100,000 jobs. So yes, more people may be employed, but they're employed for less time. They're working less hours. That means on average, weekly paychecks are slightly smaller. Watching this happen, huge wage growth also dipped in May. And the evidence of businesses feeling less pressure to dangle higher pay to find workers and keep them is happening. It's crazy. Pay increases to 4.3% it's down to only 4.3% from the year earlier. And that's down from the nearly 6% a year ago. The rise in the unemployment rate is partially reflected in higher layoffs. And this suggests that not everyone who lost jobs in recently high-profile layoffs by banks and technology firms and media companies are finding new work, because they're not. The economics is we're heading for a recession. Maybe having some strong, steady job market, or the way the U.S. wants to make it look. But that's not the truth of what's happening. Everything that's happening out there is just crazy. Watching this is just ridiculous at this point. Every time we turn around, it's something new. And a lot of jobs are being lost and people taking unemployment because of ridiculous reasons, like the international terminal at Port of Oakland, one of the West Coast's busiest marine ports, of course, had to be closed Friday amidst labor shortages. Well, is that the truth? Let's think significant reducing to no operations for second shift is happening because there is not enough pay to pay the people. They don't want overtime. They don't want to pay people overtime. They don't want to pay them anymore. They would limit the amount of vehicles or subcontract private workers that could be there. And it's showing. It's not a labor shortage. It's a problem with the way governance is taking hold. And governors no longer want gig work to take place at labor and docks. Those labor workers that were there are no longer going to be available, which leads to shortages and closing ports. Yeah. Oh, Biden is just a ridiculous person. Destroying our government at home. I don't know why my camera keeps shaking. I do not know. I'm sorry. Let me turn this down and see if it'll stop. I don't think it will, though. Honestly, I don't know why, but it's not. Scientists, on the other hand, and this is a disaster waiting to happen. This is where you have space-based weapons come from that are out of the stratosphere. It's something that you would never even expect. Something science fiction. Scientists, for the first time, transmit space-powered or space-based solar power to Earth. How are they doing this? They're concentrating it. They're concentrating sunlight and beaming it down to a receiving center. But what stops them from not sending to a receiving center? I mean, and hitting these microwaves, receivers that are installed on the rooftop, this one exact location. What's happening? What happens when they decide to use that microwave and just attack directly with it? I mean, to the best of our knowledge, no one has ever demonstrated wireless energy transfer in space, even with the expansive, rigid structure that's up there now. And this is craziness. This is absolute craziness. It's going to lead to problems in the future.
I got the water now.
It's going to be. Biden's not going to finish this term, let's be honest. He fell on stage. He fell getting onto the helo, which is just ridiculous. Something is seriously wrong with Biden. Yeah, it was a movie, Karen. It was a movie. Now they have actually done it. They've taken a satellite to condense sunlight and then transmit it amongst microwaves back to Earth. It's ridiculous. Just another way to say, hey, we're going to do what we're going to do. Meanwhile, Ukraine, being heavily shelled. And we understand what's happening in Ukraine. But Ukraine now shelling and striking Russian, killing citizens, attacking just citizens. As hundreds of children were evacuated from the border in Russia, hundreds of children. Children are very worried about their hometown, of course. About 600 children in the area that were being shelled. No military was there at the time. Of course, they sent in military to escort these people out. But the border town of around 40,000 people in Russian region had been attacked in previous week, or repeatedly in the past week. Relocating at least 2,500 people total so far. Ukraine is now launching attacks on citizens. Of course, they've been doing this since 2014 within their own country. We can admit that as Americans. Of course, saying that is like blasphemy, but it's true. We know that because they have a log. They kept a record. Intensifying shelling on the border region, of course, and airstrikes deep inside Russia, including earlier this week in Moscow, show that Ukraine is trying to attack directly, but saying it's a Ukrainian sabotage group doing it instead of Ukraine, of course, directly, because Ukraine has denied attacks in Moscow the whole time. They keep denying them. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous watching what's happening. I mean, Ukraine is. These people voted to leave, to succeed from Ukraine. And we're still watching this. We're still watching money just flow overseas. I mean, it's crazy. Money flowing overseas for weapons, and weapons flowing overseas being sold on the black market everywhere around the world. Lots of money like that. Money flowing back, of course. Money flowing back into the U.S. that was given to Ukraine, supposedly, for this crisis. But that money's flowing back to U.S. politics. How is that possible? We've seen streams of revenue that actually did that, and we can't say that it's not happening because it is. In the meantime, China and the BRICS nations are seeking closer ties and an aim to push an expanded bloc, which is happening. Senior officials from more than a dozen countries, including Saudi Arabia and Iran, in talks with forging closer links with the BRICS bloc of major emerging economies. I mean, this is going to deepen ties and position itself to counterweight the West. BRICS, of course, which now consists of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, is considering expanding its membership in growing numbers to a growing number of countries that have expressed interest in joining. Once viewed as a loose association of desperate emerging economies, BRICS in recent years have taken concrete shape, driven initially by China and since the start of the Ukraine war in February. I mean, everything is solidifying around the U.S. now. Countries are falling out of favor with the U.S. dollar because the U.S. is now manipulating its dollar to sanction or deprive anybody it wants to, because if you're trading in U.S. currency, you can do that. But when you're watching Iran, Saudi Arabia, United Emirates, Cuba, Democratic Republic of Congo, Comoros, Lubango, Kazakhstan, all sending representatives to Cape Town to try to join BRICS and, of course, be part of the talks. Egypt, Argentina, Bangladesh, Indonesia, all participating as well. Guinea. We're losing a huge majority of countries and we're not even realizing it. Joining these talks with BRIC nations about moving away from the U.S. dollar and about moving into a new security. It's happening. People need to wake up. Iran, of course, says it's formed a naval alliance with the Gulf states to ensure regional stability. That's right. Iran and his Navy's commander said his country and Saudi Arabia, as well as 3 other Gulf states, plan to a naval alliance that will also include India, Pakistan, India and Pakistan. It's been reported. The countries in the region, of course, today realize that only cooperation with each other brings security to the area, not cooperation with the West. He did not elaborate, of course, on the shape of the alliance that he said he would soon form. Of course, we know there's been talks. Saudi Arabia and Iran were hostile for several years. But under a China-mediated deal, this all has been settled quite quickly. Navy commanders from all these countries, including Bahrain, Qatar, Iraq, Pakistan, India, UAE, Saudi Arabia, all joining forces. The reproach of Iran has frustrated Israel's efforts to isolate Iran diplomatically because they're not happening. Of course, all of them pushing to go join BRICS is even worse. Of course, we're looking at Brunei and Morocco also joining the UAE. This is crazy. And these are the oil giants of the world. Of course, Saudi Arabia's oil minister today took combative stance against Wall Street. An oil production cut up to 1 million barrels a day is on the table as OPEC cartel is meeting over this weekend. 1 million barrels a day could be cut out of the market. Fuel costs could skyrocket quickly. OPEC, of course, beginning its meetings, agreeing on that may end up in agreeing on these further cuts up to 1 million barrels a day. I mean, people need to watch out. As OPEC and its allies begin its 2-day meeting, the cumulative and further production cuts could be drastic, as flagging oil prices and a looming supply gap is coming. The Organization of Petroleum Countries, allied, led by Russia, pumps around 40% of the world's crude, meaning its policy decisions have a major impact on prices. So there talks about 1 million cuts, or 1 million barrels cut, but it could be put on top of the existing 2 million barrels cut and the voluntary 1.6 million barrels that have been cut already. So we're talking total cut this year over 4.6 million barrels of oil, which will be a very drastic move. That's around 4.5% of the global oil demand. 4.5% of global oil demand, and we're not producing our own oil, so we have to buy it. We can't buy it from Venezuela. We tried that. Venezuela, of course, taking its oil mines offline, making them government institutions now. Oil production is great for the Middle East. Brings more money in. All that amongst a war that could break out at any minute, especially with China snubbing U.S. military leaders, highlighting escalation risk. I mean, this is crazy. Watching Chinese military leaders, of course, in Singapore on Friday, belittling a deep freeze in communications between the two armed forces is becoming growingly worrying, not only at the Pentagon, but everywhere. Watching what's happening, it's crazy. China obviously forcing Canada's NAVs for Taiwan Straits and U.S. NAVs, which they pushing the U.S. and Canada for deliberately provoking risk. After the country's navigational strategies and a rare joint sailing through the sensitive Taiwan Strait, which technically would be Chinese waters because Taiwan is part of China. U.S. 7th Fleet, of course, sent a guided missile destroyer, and Canada sent a routine transit on Saturday through the waters where high sea freedom of navigations and overflights apply, and according to international law, if Taiwan is an independent nation. Let me say that. If Taiwan was an independent nation. It is not. We're going to keep stating that. I mean, demonstrating that the U.S. and its allies and partners are going to keep pushing for freedom to move throughout its waters, and no matter what it wants to do. I mean, China, of course, is now having to force itself to do something. Countries concerned and deliberate creating incidences in the Taiwan Strait and regions and deliberately provoking risk and minuscule undermining the region's peace and stability is sending the wrong signal to Taiwan's independent forces. Taiwan's defense minister said the two ships, of course, sailed directly in the northern direction through the strait, which is nothing unusual to observe, but while U.S. warships transit strait once a month, it is usually for them to do so with other U.S. allies, showing that, of course, the mission taking place with U.S. and China, or U.S. and Canada, the Chinese defense chiefs were in attendance to a major regional security summit in Singapore. So China had to do something. And we're provoking, at every point, we're poking the bear at this point. Every point. We want to ramp up the fight in Ukraine to try to get a war started there. now we're watching BRICS nation, of course, joining multiple forces around the world. I mean, this is crazy. We're getting close to the new Venezuela. That is exactly true. That is exactly true. And watching these events unfold is crazy. Absolutely crazy. Not getting any saner out there. Is everything we're watching falling apart. And now we're allowing Japan to grow its military strength. Of course, they're saying they're not a threat, but they supposedly weren't a threat last time. Before Pearl Harbor, I don't know if you guys know, before what happened in that war, Japan was trying to build up their army. Japan was trying to build up their defensive platform. And they worked very hard on this. They bought tons and tons and tons of steel from us. And materials to make bombs, planes, fuel. They were buying all this from the US. And what they do last time? Once they built up a force, they turned around and used it against us. Now, will that happen today? I don't know. But that's the reason the rules were put in place, which Japan was never allowed to have an offensive force again. Biden's going to protect him. Biden's going to protect Japan. Right now, the U.S. needs to get into a war to eliminate its national debt. The only way to do that, to eliminate the national debt, is to default or allow these other countries that we owe money to go to war with them, and so the asset is no longer owed. So if we go to war with the BRICS nations right now, which own, I think, over $12 trillion worth of our debt total. So if we go to war with them, that debt gets eliminated. We no longer owe it back. Who do we owe it to? Nobody. We're at war with them. We're fighting them. They're our enemies. We don't owe money to enemies. And I don't trust Japan. I never will. As you look back through history, that's when it really hit America the hardest. Is when we trusted people that we shouldn't have. Yeah. Everybody has money invested in China, Taiwan. Yeah, Japan's an automatic protection. Ukraine and Taiwan are not allies. It's sad. It is sad watching our nation and seeing what happened with World War II, proven time again. Yeah, they don't pay attention to the warning signs. And it's the same it is today. That's exactly true, Karen. That's what I'm trying to talk about. We've seen what we did we trained Taliban. Okay? We gave them weapons, we armed them, they attacked us. We trained Japan to fight against China to keep itself independent. We sold them massive quantities of supplies, we showed them how to use it, we showed them new weapons, and they attacked us. Now, we're doing the same thing again. We're giving massive amounts of equipment to Ukraine. Ukraine's selling it on the black market. They're not even using it themselves. But what happens when they turn and attack us? What happens when Ukraine fails and falls and all those weapons end up in Russian hands? When all those weapons end up in Russian hands or Chinese hands or the BRICS nations' hands, that we supplied Ukraine with. And those weapons are used against us. Taiwan was never sovereign. Taiwan was just a part of China the whole time. That's always been. Sad as that sounds. Yeah, look at all the equipment we left for the Taliban when we evacuated Afghanistan. We're watching this fake news. Supposedly Ukraine's stopping all these missile and drone attacks on Kiev. But somehow the death toll keeps rising from supposable missiles and drones. So are they shooting them out of the sky and the debris is falling and killing massive amounts of people? Or are they not even intercepting them in the first place? And it's American politics trying to play a game. Watching this, it's crazy. But God bless you all. God bless America. Stay safe, stay sharp, and be prepared. Watching everything that's going on in the world today, we never know what's happening next. We truly don't. But God bless you all. God bless America. We will see you guys tomorrow night at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. Till then, be safe. Be strong. And of course, if you can afford to donate, please do. Joe's not going to be there for much longer. He's not going to make it. But God bless you all, and God bless America.